Man United podcast with Bids and Monty.
Yo, welcome back to yet another episode, bro. Part
Another
one of two.
Great. Huh? No. What? Do you speak or I speak? Huh?
Wait. Part one of two.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing.
Part one. What a journey Ant has had.
Yeah, from drug addiction to prison to the life of crime, violence.
Not forgetting to mention something that a lot of people struggle with nowadays, how open he was about the pressure he felt by the circle he was surrounded by.
Yes, mate. But before we get into that episode, I need a big shout out to the Man-Made Beard Company.
Geez, let me see that beard.
I'll tell you what. Oh, it's lovely. I'll tell you what. They sent me a lovely gift right here. I was only expecting maybe something little, like a comb or something, comb my beard.
Comb.
Oh, no, mate. This guy sent me 2 sets of balms, absolutely mint. And I tell you now, these are unreal.
You know what? He was doing the right thing, because imagine if they send you a comb, your comb wouldn't have got through that, bro. So he send you something that you can give some smooth. Yeah.
And this stuff is awesome. Okay, I put it on, and my beard is so soft throughout the day. I have used other products in the past, but I give up on them because you put it on and then they last about an hour. And then your beard goes all hard and strawy again. Not this bad boy. Not this bad boy. So he sent me some balms, some beard oils. Absolutely amazing. And I'm going to drop the link in the description. Go over there, have a look. Buy yourself if you got a big beard or a beard like
you work on this.
Yes, mate. Yes. Get some beard balm in there, bit of oil, make it look nice and shiny. And use the code PODY10 in that store and you'll get some discount off.
Pody 10.
Yes, my friend. Let's get straight into part one. Don't forget, subscribe, like, and comment.
And share.
And also share, my friends. Enjoy part one. We got Ant Bostock. Brother, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, really good.
Good. So we've got you in today to discuss drug addiction and your past. That's what part one's going to be all about, man. So on your journey at the start of it, with the drug addiction, how did that come about?
Well, I suppose you've got to go all the way back to all the way back. I mean, I'm a local lad, so I'm a local lad. So I was born and raised on Bentley Estate. Yeah. Come from just a normal working class family. Mum and dad did the best they could, and they did good. Provided for us. I went out work. Spent like going to the pub, so misspent youth around pool tables and sitting outside on pub car parks and mixing with the other pub kids and going on family holidays and stuff like that. Was kind of how I was brought up. When I was around about 10 years old, I had a few friends whose names I won't mention. And one of these friends had an older brother. And he was about 15 at the time. We were about 9, 10 years old. Just go around to his house, and what happened was, I remember I was about 10 years old, and he introduced us to pornography. So that was like my first thing that I was introduced to. That was a kind of a shock factor. Yeah. So that was about 10 years old. 11 years old, I became sexually active with a girl who lived at the top of the street that was older than me. Oh, right. So experiencing in that kind of things. And then just the usual place where I think everyone starts at about 12, 13, started to smoke a little bit of pot as it was back then, experience with that, with a few of the friends that now we're, and yeah, just carried on in and around that for the next couple of years, trying different little bits of recreational drugs, little bits of amphetamine, some ecstasy going on into the teenage years. When I was about 14, 15, in about the third year of school, I kind of dropped out of school. Mum and dad were going through a bit of a rough patch, and they'd separated. And my mum was a bit of an easy touch, or she was an easy touch. So that was it. I just dropped out of school and didn't started doing my own thing with friends that had also done the same. So smoking more weed, drinking cheap cider, taking diazepams and stuff like that, anything we could get our hands on, really, all the way up till about 16 years old. Well, I was 15 years old. I started a job on casual labour on one of the pot banks, because, as you'll know, being a local lad, they were 10 a penny back then. So I got a little bit. I got a little bit of casual labour on a pot bank, as it was, at 15. And when I got my national insurance number, they kind of set me on, and there was a lot of older guys that worked on that factory, that would take me to the pub after work, being 16, 17, and got into more harder stuff. So around 17 years old, got introduced to cocaine. Was still smoking a lot of weed, obviously drinking, but now at around 17, got introduced to cocaine and started to mess around a little bit with that. Started selling bits when I was 17, 18, and just using like weekends, Friday night, Saturday night, and then just living quite a normal life, really. Going through the week, working Monday to Friday.
Did you find when you started selling cocaine, did you find that the money was just too good to turn down?
Well, to be honest with you, at that young age, at that age of like 18 and years old, I was just playing about with it. It wasn't until I was older that I started to latch on to how much money. So at 18, I was just like 18, 19, I'm just moving a few bits. And most of the money that I'd earn, I'd be putting up my nose, or I'd be sharing with friends, and kitchen parties after we'd been kicked out of pubs and stuff like that. So it wasn't until like later years on in my 20s that I started to take kind of the money side of things more seriously.
So when with the cocaine side, obviously, were you younger when you started doing it, and it was just a bit of fun. At what point did you find yourself taking it seriously?
Well, at 18, I met my eldest son's mum.
Okay.
So we met when I was around 18. I was a likely lad, I liked to fight. I was doing all the things I thought a man's supposed to do, go to the pub, have a fight, sleep with women, be a geezer, make a reputation, this, that, and the other on my council estate. And that's what I was doing. So, I met quite a good looking girl. 9 months later, she became pregnant. And we were kids having kids, really. So we tried to make it happen. We got ourselves a council flat. She had my eldest son, who's 21 next week, and we got a house off the back of him being born. And about 9 months later, all my friends, all the lads, we're going on lads' holidays, and we're talking about, buying up designer clothes and this, that, and the other. And I'm struggling now because I'm not going out as much as I used to at the weekends, because now I've got a baby. You know, I'm trying to go to work, I'm trying to make it happen, and it just became a struggle that about 10 months after him being born, I decided I didn't want. So I broke down that relationship and walked away from him and from his mum. And what happened is that broke me, and I went into a complete self-destruct mode, and my life spiraled out of control. So now by the time Kyle had been born, I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
So now at 20 years old, to be honest with you, to speak frank, I just pressed the fuck it button.
Yeah,
and it was like anything goes. You get what I mean? I'm game for anything. Let's do it. So started to just do anything and everything that was available. Dropped out of work. Stopped going to work. Started selling drugs on more of a bigger scale. Getting in trouble with the police, and pretty soon prison came into play because, you know, I'd stepped it up a few gears.
With like most people that sell drugs, it's a massive gamble, isn't it? I mean, you're gambling with your life, aren't you? Because not just the prison side, but if you upset someone who's a bit of a hierarchy, you could have trouble at your door. So was there any kind of issues with that while you were doing the drug dealing, or?
To be honest with you, in those early 20s years, especially, it was just kind of contained to the council estate, or it was contained to kind of the pub scene. Okay. So if I wasn't moving stuff on the council estate, then I was just moving it in the pubs around the city or on the football terraces and things like that. Yeah. And I was quite well known. So not really, no, because on the estate, no, you know, there wasn't just me. There was a flipping big group of us, you know, and in the early 20s, 21, 22, 23, there was maybe 50, 60 of us that used to kick it together. So, you know, we were quite a formidable force, and all of us were up for a row. So we had our own little, and people knew not to bother with that.
So you had your own bubble. You had that bubble.
Yeah, I suppose later when I stepped away from kind of that group, and by now, I'd say I was about 25. I was using cocaine more heavily, and I stopped really selling cocaine and moved on to crack cocaine. And that took me into a completely different environment, because then I was dealing with a different customer group. I was dealing with people from outside of the city, bringing in cheaper drugs, because that's a more it's not a more expensive drug, but it's kind of a more looked down upon drug. You know what I mean? Then, you know, people say cocaine, we think of this recreational, high society, you know, snobs. But when you think crack cocaine, you think about the heroin addict, the crack addict that lives in the gutter. So you're moving in a complete different sector. Then it became quite dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a quick one, obviously. I would just go a little bit back in regards of when you had your first child. He was born, obviously. You said he was 20. You've gone from going out, from doing all these things with your friends, to then becoming a father at such a young age. Did you feel the pressure of seeing your friends doing what they were doing and you not being able to provide for your family the way you wanted to provide, that it led to you breaking up with the partner and then taking the drug games more serious because you just felt like you was being left behind?
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I remember exactly how it happened, to be honest. We just got our own little house, and it was fine. And it was about 9, although it was on a different street, it was about 9 doors away from my mum and dad. So they were helping us out, and it was nice. We had it nice. But what happened is my closer knit group of friends, about 25 of them, booked an holiday to Tenerife. And it was like I wasn't included. You know, because for one, I couldn't afford to book that kind of holiday with them. And two, I never would have been allowed to go because my baby mother would have just said no. And it kind of left me it left me feeling left out in the cold as far as my pals were concerned. And we were a close all my identity, all my belonging, all my acceptance, all my purpose was wrapped up in that group of friends, if you get what I mean. So when that happened and they booked that holiday and were ready to fly out, I remember thinking, I can't do this. I can't settle down as a dad. I can't like devote the next 20 years of my life to not doing what I want to do, with not going along with the lads. And over whatever period of time, that caused me to think, I'm walking away from this.
Yeah, so that's what caused the spiral to kick off. Just seeing all your mates just doing what you want to do.
Well, it was that, and the fact that when I did walk away from it, it affected me a lot more than I thought it would. I thought I could have just walked away from it, and that's it. The grass is greener on the other side, and I'm going to have a right knees up. But what I didn't realize is it flipping really hurt me. I was really, really hurt about the fact that now I'm not seeing my son. And what his mother did is she moved 200 miles up the country away from. So like now my son doesn't just live 9 doors up from my mum and dad. He lives nearly 200 miles up the country in Cleethorpes, which is up by Grimsby.
No way.
So I'm having hopped the train up and down there twice a month. And it was just, so that was all of those things going on in my life and trying to work out who I was as a 20-year-old, because I'm not even going to call myself a man. I was a boy. Do you know what I mean? I was trying to work out what a man was. So all of those things going on, it just, it was too much for my head, really. And like, as I said, speaking bluntly, you just press that fuck it button. It's like, let's just go with the flow, man. Let's just do whatever feels good. Let's do what everybody else is doing.
And obviously, initially, that leads to bad shit such as prison, doesn't it?
Yeah.
With how long did you do in prison? Was it like one sentence, or was it different ones?
No, I've done about 9 sentences all in all. So I've done the longest I've ever done in prison is 3 years.
Yeah.
And like done all different manners of sentences, like done 6 months for like common assaults. Where I've hit somebody in town in Hanley or something like that once and got a common assault. Done 12 months, done drug offences, done domestic violence, been in prison for when I've had toxic relationships, when I've been in kind of the drug world and in my addiction and got involved in a toxic relationship, and that's gone bottoms up, and I've gone round bleeding, kicking people's doors in, looking for an ex-partner and stuff like that. And varying different things. I always say to people I was quite a late developer, because most of my mates had been in prison by the time they were 18, but I never did my first sentence till I was 23. So that's when prison started to become a part of my life.
When as a young kid, and obviously you've said your friends already been in prison by the time they were 18, and you have not experienced that. Was there like sort of something playing in the back of your head thinking they were bigger, tougher than you, or how did that plan out when you was a young kid? Because obviously you're seeing your friends doing all these things and they've been to prison, and then you're still 20, 21 and not have experienced what they've seen. Do you feel like, I need to catch up with them, and you feel like you had to prove something, or how do you feel?
Yeah, definitely. Like I had to prove something. I'd say that. And just like you say, it was something that you were fascinated with, because you wanted to hear all the stories about like what it was like in there and what their experiences were and whatnot. But then there was that fear factor of like, will I be able to cope?
Yeah.
With being not just locked away, but will I be able to cope with the hustle and bustle? And when it's just you and it's not the 40 lads behind you. Do you know what I mean? How big am I actually then, and stuff like that? So there was all that kind of fear factor that was still in play. But going back to what you said there, that I think that I thought I had to prove something more than the rest of them, because, as I said, I hadn't been to prison. So just doing things that were just completely crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, the only reason I asked this because I've seen an article I was watching something. There was a young kid that said his goal in life was to be in every prison in the UK.
What?
Yeah, to be locked up in every prison in the UK. So that was that's his goal in life. Well, that's something that I read. So obviously from listening to your story, I thought, you know what, let me ask if you felt like some sort of peer pressure that you've not been to prison and your mates have. But that was the reason why I asked.
Yeah, and as I said, if I'm totally honest, and I'm honest with myself and with you guys, and with everyone listening, there was that kind of, there's a point proof. Yeah, I want to know what it's like. But there was that fear factor as well of like, am I going to be able to cope? Am I going to be able to cut it because I knew prison was coming. The kind of lifestyle that I was living, it wasn't a matter of if, it was just a matter of when. So there was that fear factor with me as well. If I'm being real, that it was like, am I going to be able to survive?
What was it like then when you finally walked in that prison for the first time and you had that boof?
Yeah, well, it was. Yeah, so I went to prison at 23 for the first time for an ABH charge.
Yeah.
I got 2 years to do 12 months, to serve 12 months. And when I first walked in, it was daunting. There was nobody about because I didn't get onto the wing until after about 6:30, and everyone was locked away. It was a Friday, so it's always early bang up on a Friday anyway. So there was just nobody about. So I've just come onto this wing. It was an old Victorian prison that used to be in Shrewsbury called the Darnay. So it was very old and and it was just a bit daunting. And you could hear the sounds coming out the cells as the officers were walking me past different people's cells and stuff. And then they just put me in my cell. And luckily enough, I didn't have a cellmate. It was an empty cell, so I had the cell to myself. Right. And my friends had told me what to do, in going. So I'd taken weed with me. I'd put that inside myself to smuggle into the prison. So on the next day, Saturday, the hustle and bustle starts. Your door comes open. You're a new face on the wing. Everybody's to you. Have you got this? What have you brought in? Etc. And I'd obviously been worded up on, Luke, don't declare anything. Don't tell anybody anything. No, it's my first time. I haven't brought nothing. I just want to do my time and get through. Keep your head down and enjoy your smoke was the advice that like my friends who'd been to prison before me had given to me. But what I realized very quickly on that Saturday day is I knew 75% of the people in there.
No way.
So it was like, and there were people that I hadn't seen for years. So it was like, wow, I haven't seen you for years. Like, there was an old friend of mine who I used to work with on the factory back in the day, who'd gone into virtually the same way. He'd gone massively into addiction though, and not necessarily balancing that out with the selling of drugs. And we used to get along like an house on fire when we worked on the factory, but I hadn't seen him for about 3-4 years, and he was in there. So it was just catching up and telling him, look, I've got some smoke, and that was it. So within the first week, I'm like, this isn't so bad. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I've got a TV, I've got this, and because I'm selling little bits of weed on the wing, so I get a stereo for a few spliffs. I get this, I get that, I get the other. So before I knew it, like my cell was just like my bedroom.
Yeah,
I've only been there a week, and I'm thinking I'm not doing too bad. I've got this prison game sussed.
You just felt like you've gone on holiday then.
Really, yeah. You're hitting the gym. You're getting 3 square meals a day. I'm not having to look over my shoulder to see if the police are following me or stuff. It was kind of like, it was a breath of fresh air. Really, it was like a relaxing kind of like, wow, this isn't so bad. And so that deterrent of that fear factor that I was talking about went away quite quickly. Yeah. As soon as I actually got there.
Oh, nice. Wow. That's a good insight, because you get people that have been in prison with different stories. Some people go in and they're just scared shitless. And they can't hack the fear of being in prison.
I certainly wouldn't, man. I'll be too.
Let me not paint this picture
Yeah.
as well, because what happened on that sentence, about 4 months in, I ended up getting transferred to another prison, which was in Nottingham. So then when I went there was nobody that I knew. So then that was different, because I didn't know, and it wasn't like Shrewsbury used to be a holding prison. So you'd get your remand prisoners coming in, your prisoners that had just been sentenced, and then they dispersed to other prisons where you'd go and serve out your sentence.
Yeah.
So when I got to Nottingham, you got people that had been in there, like, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And they were big guys, man. Some of these guys have been training in the gym for like 15 years, eating right, sleeping right. They were big. So that was a little bit more daunting then. But you fit in, you find your group, you find those that are like you. So that was what I did, and what happened through that is I made connections. I met people from Birmingham. I met people from Wolverhampton. I met people from Manchester and Liverpool and all over the country. Really, you swap numbers, and it was off the back of that. That first sentence, when I got out, I think I was nearly 25, and it was off the back of that where I dropped the cocaine game and stopped really playing around with drugs and moved on, because I'd learned in the prison how much money you could make off the crack cocaine.
Yeah.
And with the connections I'd made, I started to embark in that.
Wow. And then obviously that would lead to another sentence, would it?
Yeah, well, it led to earning a lot of. So this is where I took the money side of things more seriously.
Yeah.
So started making money, a lot of money, wearing big gold chains, wearing gold bracelets, very expensive clothes, trainers. It wasn't about was I going out and buying one pair of trainers. It was like, how many colours have you got those trainers in? I'll have every colour in the shop.
Wow.
So it was like the money was, shopping at Pockets and just going in and spending $1,000, $2,000, stuff like that. And was really enjoying that kind of lavish lifestyle. But with that, you become more on the police's radar, because you stepped away from just being a bit of a geezer who sells a bit of coke on the football terraces or in the pubs and sniffs more than he earns. And has a bit of a fight now and again. Now you're making real money, and you become more. So the front door to where I was living in a house, I ended up getting a house with a girl pretty quickly after getting out. That was coming in once a month, once every other month. The police were kicking the doors in, but I'd like to say I was a little bit cleverer than the police, but obviously not, because I've done 9 prison sentences. But one rule I would have is that I would never keep nothing at the house. So no matter how many times they kick the front door in, they'd never find anything. They'd find bits of money, a few £100, but never enough to put any kind of order on. There was never grands in the house or anything like that. So but the prison sentences that came after that were kind of for like violence, toxic relationships, so domestic stuff going on, and just a madness, because at about 27, what happened was I developed a crack cocaine habit. So it had gone from like just messing around again with cocaine and little bits of crack cocaine, and then at 27 I was heavily smoking crack cocaine. I was injecting steroids to kind of counteract the crack cocaine, the weight loss that the crack cocaine was causing. So I started to inject steroids. You're still making the money, so it wasn't like I didn't recognize my addiction, because I'm walking around in, like you say, Stone Island jackets or this or that or, whatever. And you've got this amount of money in your pocket. You've got bleeding a few £1,000 chain swinging from your neck and this, that, and the other. So I never recognized that actually I was a drug addict, because I thought like what I associated drug addicts as being was like kind of the guy that lives in the gutter or the guy sitting in a doorway up Hanley begging for small change. But looking back in hindsight now, what happened is I developed quite a heavy crack cocaine addiction.
Wow.
At what stage did you realize or understood that you was actually had an addiction?
So I think on one of the prison sentences, and I know that looking back through my life, sometimes it's just a blur, and you're trying to piece together how old was I when I did that, or what part of my life does that fit in. So I have the memories, but I can't think. But on one of the prison sentences, I remember I'd had my clothes taken off me for forensics, and they put me on remand. So when I reached the prison, they put me in the prison clothes. So I remember sticking on, I'd had to take my clothes off, and I remember sticking on this prison tracksuit, this grey tracksuit, and just some like plimsoll trainers. Do you know what I mean? And I remember looking at myself now that I'd had all the designer clothes stripped off me, and I wasn't wearing the gold and this, that. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and it hit me then. I'm thinking, wow, I look like one of these addicts. When you strip all these, I'm looking like and I think then, but you kind of, or I was in self-denial. Nah, I've got control of this. I'm on top of this. When really I'd lost control of it, and it was controlling me.
Yeah. And then for part 2, which is coming up in a few days, we're going to talk about how you turned everything around, and you actually had a coming together with God, I believe, in prison, which we can crack on with that about as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
what we're going to do is, Monty, part 2. When do you reckon that's going to drop? Oh, I don't know.
I'll tell
you what, you can pick today. I'll say today is Sunday.
Sunday will drop part 1.
Yeah, and then what day are you going to pick for part 2?
It'll be perfect. It'll be like a midweek.
Ooh, midweek game.
Midweek games.
Floodlights on and everything.
Everything, man. Juice up. Champions League nights.
Oh, Wednesday then.
There you go.
Wednesday night Champions League night with Men United podcast.
There you go.
Sounds good.
Sounds good, that, bro. We'll get that on. Right. So, thanks for watching part 1. We'll see you all for part 2 on Wednesday, Champions League Wednesday with Men United podcast. Brought to you by Monty and Bids. Thanks for watching, guys. Oh, and listening. Don't forget that. Jesus. No, I don't. We've got too much in YouTube. We're forgetting iTunes and Spotify, mate. I'm sorry. Take it easy. Thanks for listening and watching.